Oh, well, everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
You're going to make that happen?
Huh?
You're going to make that happen?
Oh, definitely. That's the fight that I want. That's the fight everybody else want. Like I said, I'm going to get these straps and I'm going to go over there and take his shit too.
All right. Errol, congratulations. Terrific fight this evening.
Thank you, man. Down. Strap season. Y'all know what time it is, baby. Terrence, I'm coming for that motherfucking belt.
All right.
I'm not catching fades anymore. Gotta keep my hands clean when they come for the ball. Keep it smooth like a dawn, making moves in the dark. Cause I learned how to swim in the pool full of sharks. Now they coaches, cause they can't read all his motions. How the kid never switch codes, but he code switch focus. Staring down your team with a frozen, ice cold look that could end the summer solstice. Cause I'm more like the top dog. Keep on running game and the gang will accost y'all. I be calling plays from a plane while I'm off court. But we ain't the same, you a lame, I'm a mob star. Actually, I'm a top dog on a stat sheet. Off court, but I call plays for the athlete. Laughing when the cop cars try to catch me. Cause I rolled off in a taxi. With my feet up, I'm relaxing. Singing Figaro with no accent. While I pour strings from the streets in. Do it all with a straight face, I'm the kingpin. Top dog, top flow, boss mode, I'm the kingpin. Showstopper, top dog, Godfather, I'm the kingpin. They know I'm a dog and a beast, man. Yeah, I keep the peace with a peace, man. I ain't got no time for appeasement. Why would I respond to a pawn? I'm the... Hold up.
If I let my dogs off the leash, then you might want to get out of Dodge by the evening. Honestly, think it's not the blood and the beef, and they don't leave anything behind at the evening.
I can see you soft, ever thought about retreating. If you never have, then they'll give you a reason. Better watch your tone, lose your bass when you speaking. Underneath the mask is the wrath of a beast. When you learn how to smile in their face, then go cutthroat. Then they wanna call you a con when the blood cold. I remember starving while y'all had a truckload. Now I'm with the mob with the call and the gusto. I'm a top dog on a stat sheet. Off court, but I call plays for the athlete. Laughing when the cop cars try to catch me. Cause I rolled off in a taxi. With my feet up, I'm relaxing. Singing Figaro with no accent. While I pour strings from the streets in. Do it all with a straight face, I'm the kingpin. Top dog, top flow, boss mode, I'm the kingpin. Showstopper, top dog, Godfather, I'm the kingpin.
What's going on, 2 Cents Boxing in the building? What's going on, sis, out there? You know, I took some of your advice and I was looking up Tierra Brown and I was looking up Gambrella since she was saying it was dominating over there. And, you know, just to get in touch with my my women's boxing. And man, was I impressed. You know, looking at Gabriel, I think they Gabriel, I can't even say her name, Gabriel Fandora, man, she is chopping up ugly women. You know, she is tearing them up, man. She is over there knocking them out. You know what I'm saying? She looking good doing it too, man. And I was just checking out, you know, some of her action, man. I was just like, I was impressed. I was impressed. I was like, God damn, man. She is over there destroying chicks, man. Just absolutely, I mean, dominating. I was like, wow. I was so goddamn impressed. I was just like, wow. You know, she looks, you know, well, she's dominating better than her brother, like 2 Cents was saying. And I said, man, we got to start covering some of the, you know, some of the fights over there, man. We're just not giving it a lot of credit. Let me see. There we go. I was trying to bring that up. Yeah, man, she's having fun doing it. She's tall, you know, like her brother, you know, she's making these chicks look like, you know, pedestrians out there, man. I mean, she is putting the whammy on them, man. I mean, lefts, rights, you know, putting them in the corner, busting them up to the body. Man, I like her, man. I like her. I'm a fan. Definitely going to be following her closely. And you know, Tierra Brown, you know, saying she won her her fight against Sky Nicholson, I think that's her name was. I mean, it's coming up. She's still got a lot of learning because she smothers a lot of her punches, but she's still a good fighter though. She's still a good fighter. She's getting better and better. She's 37 from Florida, from my state. So we're gonna have to stop following these women boxing, man. This heating up over there. And they got a lot of rivals. Even though I don't think they're on the level of Gabriella Fundora. She just looked polished out there. Or what's that chick named Caroline DeBoers? I like her. And there's a one more that just got just looked polished out there. What I'm saying, that I'm gonna start following a little bit more closely. What I'm saying, but it's just so many fights on the horizon in women's boxing. And man, I don't be having time to sit down and do all the research and set up everything. That's my problem. But yeah, I like Gabriella Fedora. Man, she is exciting to watch too. It ain't like some boring shit. She be busting them up, bro. I'm talking about she is a really really exciting fighter to watch. And she's mean. She be really trying to put them bam bams on these chicks, especially the ugly ones. You know what I'm saying? I like how she just like she mad because they were born ugly. You know what I'm saying? She be really going in, and she be mean to them too. But they be talking their little shit back too, so but they just not on her level. I don't know if they taxi drivers and or whatnot, but it'd be some good action, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna stop following. That all thanks to 2 cents. You know what I'm saying? I followed it before, but I had kind of fell off. Had kind of fell off from following women's boxing. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We talk about I'm looking at Terence Crawford. I said, man, I didn't even think about the fact that Bud and the Turk was, they were close. I mean, I don't know how close they was, but I look at the picture of him holding hands with the Turk, and I just figured, it was I just didn't understand the reason why they were so close. I was like, why are they holding hands, and why is he backing Bud to this degree? And you know, I didn't think that. I thought he was 100% behind Bud, is what I'm trying to say. And it comes to find out that that's not the case. They just wanted to use Bud to try to take over, to get this boxing up under Dana White rule, right? They wanted to get TKO in the building. They was using Crawford to do it, right? But what ended up happening was Bud Crawford upset the apple cart, right? He wasn't supposed to beat Canelo Alvarez, bro. I was like, what the hell? He was not supposed to beat Canelo Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I didn't even think about that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I talked about it a little bit the other night, but before when I'm just watching the fight and watching everything kind of come together, I didn't think that because think about it. When you looked at Max Kellerman's face, when you looked at his face while he was watching that fight, it was like, uh-oh, this ain't going the way it's supposed to go. When you looked at the reaction of the Turk over there, he was 100% pissed. He was pissed off during the whole fight because Crawford was whipping Canelo ass, and they knew that their plans were destroyed. And I was just like, wow, bro. You know what I'm saying? Even in the scorecards, they was trying to cheat Crawford, and he beat all of that, man. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh my God, bro, Crawford was not supposed to win this. You know what I'm saying? He was supposed to lose. Now, I don't know if, they made a deal with Crawford, like, hey man, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna go out there and you're gonna fall in the eighth round. I don't know if it was some shit like that. I don't know if they made a plan like that for him to take a dive for 50 million or what however millions he made on the fight. But one thing's for sure, Canelo had 3 more fights to fulfill, but he's supposed to do it as a undisputed champion. Now somehow they got to figure out a way to sell Canelo as a defeated fighter, to complete his three fight deal that he has with TKO, right? So how is that going to work? How is that going to work? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because Crawford has got everybody spinning now because he won the fight. So now they got to operate through Bud Crawford. You know what I'm saying? Either through a rematch, he's going to get some money back, or I mean, that's really Turk's only alternative. I'm thinking is to get a rematch with Canelo Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who he really got. That's who he expected to win. That's who he thought he was going to be dealing with. I don't understand how they could make such a big mistake with all the matchmakers. And you know, when you're talking about this amount of money, you know, you got people that could have told him. I mean, you could have went to any boxing aficionado and said, "Man, don't risk that." You know what I'm saying? He could have went to anybody, you know, Breadman or somebody, you know, that knows boxing should have told him, man, like you can't put all your eggs in one basket behind Canelo Alvarez because there's no guarantee that he can beat Terence Crawford. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I don't understand how unless you know what I'm saying. That's why I said if it's not a guarantee, I mean, unless Crawford just went back, you know, they asked Crawford to take a dive, and he agreed to it, but he had his own plans. That's the only way I could see them taking a risk like this. If Crawford had agreed to take a dive, that's the only way I could see it. Because why would you put money unless they just knew Canelo was just so good, even though he looked bad during the William Scully fight, right? I mean, if I would have saw that, you know what I'm saying, if I would have saw it's kind of like the stock market, you know what I'm saying, when they don't have confidence, when they see a stock that don't perform well, you know what I'm saying, why would you put money in that stock? You know what I'm saying? Why would you take the risk to put that much money? If you saw Canelo Alvarez in the William Scully fight, then you know what I'm saying, he just don't look good anymore. So I wouldn't have put my money behind him like that unless I could have went to Crawford and said, "Man, we want you to take a dive. We're going to pay you $50 million to take the dive." You know, unless Crawford said, you know, "Okay, I'll take the dive," and went in there and just and reneged on that shit and whipped Canelo ass. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way I could see them losing out like that because common sense would have told them that Bud Crawford is coming to win, especially, you know, with all the hype, you know, in the press conferences. And um I would have been nervous if I was the Turk. I would have been nervous. It's like, wait a minute, you still gonna take the dive, right? You know. And it looked like to me it's something like that's going on because the Turk seemed like he's very pissed with Bud Crawford because he said he's not backing Bud Crawford. He's not behind Bud Crawford. You know what I'm saying? It's just business. And I'm just like, I think Crawford was supposed to take a dive. I really do. I really think he was supposed to take a dive, you know? And he went in there and he did the opposite. Now, I don't think the Turk is a dirty son of a bitch, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't think Bud Crawford's gonna end up like Sonny Liston, you know what I'm saying, end up in some hotel with needles in his arms or something like that. I don't think that's gonna happen. You know. But I do think he wants to recoup that money, and I do think he wants Crawford to accept that David Benavidez deal. You know, because David is the Avenger. You know what I'm saying? He is the Turk's Avenger. You know, and he got the money to make a fight like that happen. You know, he wants to get his money back. You know, because Crawford kind of messed everything up. He said Turkish can throw Bud away at any time. He says for the next exciting thing like David Benavidez, I think that's who will be Turk one of his main guys. He might make David his Canelo. Definitely, definitely. David is David better than Canelo. So it's wise for him to switch over to David because David is 28. David, you know, he's the Mexican mafia. He already got a following out there. I think real Mexicans that love the sport is going to back David because he don't duck any smoke, and he is about that action. So he's real Mexican style. You know what I'm saying? He's fighting on the inside. He's slugging. That's the Mexican style way. That's David all the way right there. So I could see David, you know, pushing Canelo aside. But where does that leave Canelo? Right? So I'm thinking either they're gonna push for the rematch or they're gonna push David, to the forefront. They got to do it, especially with the move they're trying to make with TKO, because TKO is just going to be out there in the win, without, getting Canelo on board or without getting David Benavidez on board. But this is the perfect opportunity, if you think about it, for Benavidez. This is the perfect opportunity for him to, start his reign as the face of boxing, because, only reason I say it like that is because Bud Crawford is 38. Say how long can he be the face of boxing? Now I know Laura is 41 and he's still running, but Laura is beating dudes like Danny Garcia, which I wanted to talk about later on. You know what I'm saying? Because what's going on, SJ Boxing IQ? What's going on? Which I wanted to talk about later on because that was one smooth little fight that just kind of fell by the wayside. Danny Garcia is cooked at 160, man. He don't look the same, man. He just look, you know, I mean, he just fell from that one shot from Laurel. But anyway, how long can Bud Crawford be, saying the face of boxing at the age of 38? He's gonna have to choose his next bout wisely. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. He says, "What's going on, Bruce? Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. What's happening?" He says, "Bud fights once a year, and he isn't going to change that now." He says, "We're going to hear a lot of names before Bud finally confirms whether he's fighting or not." Yeah, you already know that. What's going on, Mike? Yeah, you already know that. But I was like wondering why did they fall out? Because I was just thinking that this whole thing was on an even playing field. But when I seen Max Kellerman face, bruh, that boy looked like he was constipated. He looked like he was constipated. What's going on, all things in the building? I said, Bud, man, I said, wow. I mean, right now he's doing victory laps all over the place. He's being seen on TV, but of course, we don't know what he's going to do next. But I just wonder how is that going to work with, is he going to be working with the Turk? Is he going to be working with Top Rank again? I mean, I'm just so interested in seeing which way Bud's going to go with this thing. Because he done kind of snatched the money and hauled ass, right? Because he know he can't fuck with the Turk again. Because Turk really, wanted it the other way around. So what is gonna really happen? You know what I'm saying? Because he finally found the one sponsor that was gonna back him, and then he fucked him over, right? And I'm not saying that that's Bud's fault because the Turk betted on against him to lose, but that puts him in an awkward place, you know, as as the undisputed champion at 168. That puts Bud in a weird position, because now he done bit the hand that fed him, right, so to speak. Yeah. So he says Bud's gonna do some W with HHH and Dana White in the game. Easy money for Bud. And you know what? You might be on to something because what's that? There's a UFC guy that's after Bud, talking about he could beat Bud in one round. Ilias Tupora, I think his name is. Talk about he can beat Bud in one round. I'm like, bro, I said this sounds like some kind of little sales shit that they're trying to do. Like trying to lead it into a fight between him and that guy, and just like Mayweather and Conor McGregor, right? Something like that. Look like they're trying to do some crap like that with Bud. Um, and his title won't be on the line. You know what I'm saying? He could just go over there and uh, do an exhibition or two. Make some money. But everybody really want to see if Bud's going to stay with boxing. Is he going to stay, at 160, and try to become undisputed, for a fourth time? That's gonna be cool right there. That's gonna be cool to see if he could be undisputed champion for a fourth time. Because that's a real fight with Janabak. He's got two titles. Then you got Carlos Adamas, and you got Laura. Those are some good fights. I think Bud would beat them, but like Bruce says, excuse me, y'all, he only fight once a year, you know. So he's gonna have to get this done. He's gonna have to get this done quickly before he age out the game, right? You know, how long can Bud keep this up? I mean, Laura, he's 41, but we know how he fought for the longest time, plus there's nobody really down there at 160 to like really give him too many problems because he was able to just walk around the ring with Danny Garcia. He was able to just walk around the ring. I was surprised that Danny, he don't look too good at 160, I was just checking because I finally seen that fight. I was like, how did I miss that fight? You know. So, I just looked it up and there you go. You know, he just one punch, you know what I'm saying? And Danny was just like, I mean, he just went down. I was like, damn, Danny. I mean, I'm not like a huge Danny Garcia fan or nothing like that, but I mean, he didn't even he just went down on one knee and that was that. I was like, maybe it was the extra poundage. Maybe he had some problems with the weight. I don't know. But I was really surprised by that. 41-year-old man and Danny Garcia, he couldn't handle it, man. God damn, man. Laura just is under a whole nother star, man, when it comes to, winning. He wins, man, at 160. Yeah, yeah, he got good power, man. I was just surprised by this. That's like, look, I'm like, damn, Danny, you're a smaller. He's just fights at small. He's good at smaller weights, man. This, going up to 160 is no good for him. I don't think he can fuck with nobody at 154. But I thought Danny was going to like make it exciting, you know what I'm saying? But I could see how he already started moving when he fought Jose Benavidez. That he wasn't serious, you know what I'm saying, about being in the division and fighting the top guys. So but Laura is we underestimate his power, like you said. You underestimate his power, man. I love me some Danny Garcia, but right now, he's a former version of himself down at 140 or 147. He said Danny was out the ring for 2 years. He didn't spar. His dad almost died, and he went up to get a payday. Yeah, that's just selling out, man. I hate it. And I didn't know that about his dad though. It's like Tony Harrison. When the dads, when the dads go down in health and you start to see the fighter decline. Um, Tony Harrison gave Jamel Charlo all kind of hell. That boy, the catch counter, was awesome. He gave that was a hell of a fight. But boy, when the dads go down, then Tim Zoo came in and he just gets knocked out. So I just hate when fighters go through personal issues in their personal lives, you know what I'm saying? Because it affects their performances. And, I'm glad he got the payday and I'm glad he's okay, you know what I'm saying? But damn, who's gonna knock the hell out of Lara, get his ass into retirement? You know what I'm saying? So we can get some new blood. I don't want to see these damn old ass fighters, fight forever. Even Floyd talking about coming back fighting a fight. I'm just like, bro, will you please go sit your ass down? Floyd, we love you, but man, it's like you just get jealous of everybody, getting their own thing going. It's like, he's talking about fighting somebody else. I'm just like, Jesus, who are you gonna fight? That anybody want to see. Um, he says, unfortunately, I do see Canelo being replaced with David, another. But see, that's who should have been in the ring. That's who should have been in the ring. He should have been, passing the torch to David. But Canelo, man, this new breed, this new generation, they just don't want to do it the old fashioned way. You know what I'm saying? They want to do it on their terms. And, you know, they want to put you down while they're doing it because for how long they kept saying that David was trash, he hadn't fought anybody, but yet you won't get in the ring with you get in the ring with Rocky Fielding, you get in the ring with Belanga, Jaime Magia, You'll get in the ring with the likes of these guys, but then you'll say somebody like David Benavidez is trash. Somebody who's walking, literally walking through motherfuckers like Terminator. Oh, we see why you won't get in the ring with them, but be real with them. Hey, be real with it. You know what I'm saying? Stop with the pretending. You know what I'm saying? David is the truth, man. And now that Bud got the belt, now they all the Mexicans, hey, fight David. You know what I'm saying? Why won't you fight David? The same people that was giving Canelo excuses, you know what I'm saying, for not fighting David. He should go to 175. He's too big to be at 160. How do you determine what weight this man should fight at? You know, just because you afraid that he can beat Canelo, that he's gonna destroy, even when the man was WBC contender #1. You know what I'm saying? People made all kind of excuses. Canelo can do what he want to do. He's above the sport. Yeah, because you don't want him to get his ass whipped, right? You want him to pick and choose, these weaker opponents that he can beat, you know what I'm saying, skip over the Mexican monster, which they did. You know, what they did that shit for like what, 3, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. They skipped over this man every time he built himself back up. You know what I'm saying? After he got, the weight thing, the cocaine, all that stuff he went through. They used all that shit as ammunition to keep David off of Canelo's ass. And that's the disingenuousness of this boxing thing. People make excuses, what I'm saying, so champions can stay champions longer, a little bit longer. But but still, people don't look at you as the real champion until you fight your rival, right? For at least for the boxing purists, right? That's how we look at things. But the casual boxing aficionados, they overlook certain things for their favorite fighter. He says Laura add Canelo's look worse than Crawford. Add Laura add Canelo's worse than Crawford. Yeah, I mean Canelo been fighting a lot longer. He's a lot, he's got a lot more mileage on his engine than Crawford. You know, he says Laura had Canelo face looking like Martin when Tommy Hearn tore his ass. And that's true. But see, it was that whole circus thing, that Canelo controlled. The narratives, and every time Canelo throws a punch, it's just it's supposed to be worth more. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be, because of the power in his punches, even though he land, 60 punches less. You know what I'm saying? And even in the Crawford fight, people are still talking about Canelo didn't get his just due uh when it came to his punch output. I was like, he didn't punch a lot. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't as active. I don't know why people just want to change what we see in the ring, right? Even a lot of the other people were mad with Canelo because he didn't throw enough punches. Then you got the other half saying he didn't get credit for the punches that he threw. It was just crazy. It was just crazy. Pick a side, man. Pick your poison. Is either way, Crawford, you know what I'm saying, clearly beat Canelo in the ring. You said what you said, some Ford versus Paxton. Boy, they would love that shit, SJ, they would love that shit, especially if Pacquiao come out there and somehow beat Mayweather. That's all you would hear. That's all you would hear because they can't wait to get Floyd beat. He said it's just like when Boots and Crawford when fighting, they're passing the torch. He said Sonny Liston fought up and coming Ali, but that was back when older fighters didn't duck up and coming fighters. Yeah, you know. Well, it was high risk. Ali had people behind him too. Ali had people behind him too. It's a chance for the mafia to make a big lick. You know what I mean? Um, back then, how they fixed fights back then, had undefeated fighters take dives and, so they can make money, what I'm saying, on the betting line. And they came to Ali. Ali said that the mafia came to him and, he told them it is what it is. He's going to win his fights. He said, y'all do what y'all got to do. But they left him alone. which is rare because the mafia usually come take care of business. But I think they really respected Ali, um, and he had the Nation of Islam behind him. Now I don't know if he had the nation. I don't think he was a Muslim at that point when the mafia came to him and threatened his life. You know what I'm saying? To take a dive, and I think it was the Sonny Liston fight. I forgot what that guy name was out of Florida, the mafia guy who was over Liston. Um, asked Ali to take a dive, and he wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't. You know, they didn't do anything to Ali. So I mean, that's a surprise because usually, you know, you saw what they did to Liston, but of course, he had been doing business with him all along. So you know, it's a lot. This mafia and this crime and you know the underbelly of criminal activity goes way back with boxing, way back. You know, um, a lot of fighters had to careers ruined because of gangsters. You know, saying betting lines and stuff. And you know, fighters got families too. You know, fighters got families too. They don't want their families messed with. You know, because of going back on their word. And that's why I'm kind of looking at what's going on with the Turk because he's got he got endless money and he's trying to move here on boxing. He's trying to move. He's trying to make a move here, a big move. And I just kind of think like they're looking at Crawford like, how can we recoup out of this? What can we regain up out of this move? You know what I'm saying? Because this man has totally destroyed Canelo Alvarez. Is Canelo Alvarez going to be able to pick himself up and move forward with the next three fights? And I'm pretty sure those will probably be the last three fights that Canelo fight. Because what else is there? For you to prove? Nothing. There's nothing else for you to prove. You've already done it all. You've been undisputed. Um, at 168 forever. You know what I'm saying? Made all the money in the world. Damn, I don't know if Canelo's a billionaire yet, but he's damn near close. You know what I'm saying? So he's got generational wealth. So that's cool. He don't really fight for the money anymore. So, you know, I mean, what is he gonna? How he's gonna motivate himself after this defeat to Bud Crawford? How is he gonna move forward? That's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be an interesting question. And who he's gonna fight after. How they gonna market the fight after he's been defeated? He can't go in there on some undisputed shit no more, because that's been taken away from him. So I know the Turk them are racking their brains. Like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna how are we gonna survive this shit unless they do a rematch? And they're probably gonna have to offer Crawford some obscene amount of money because this time this shit is gonna be fixed to the gills. They're gonna fix the hell out of this shit. You know what I'm saying? They probably gonna have Errol Spence Jr. as a judge. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna have Henry Lundy as a judge. They're gonna have Postal as a judge. You know what I'm saying? This shit, they can't afford to let Canelo lose in a rematch. And I'm pretty sure Bud done peaked the game. I'm pretty sure Bud done peaked the game. Because if he take that second fight, it's gonna be a high probability that that shit is gonna be so far fixed against him, that no. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think he's gonna even give the Turk the opportunity to get his get back. Either he'll retire or he'll just take some fights where his belts are not on the line. And Canelo, he's good for that shit because he wanted to fight Biffle up at 170. Yeah. You said the plan was always a trilogy, in my opinion. I will see. I mean, I think that's the only way to go, unless they playing some kind of hardball. Like, look, nigga, you know what I'm saying? You don't come in here doing that. You know what I'm saying? We may have to take a little blood from you, bro, if you try to walk away with all this opportunity that we gave you. And I could see something like that happening. I know y'all thinking that shit is far fetched, but no, we're talking about billions of dollars on the line. We talk about money that this move here with TKO. We talk about changing the landscape of boxing, the way it's probably going to be seen in the next 20, 30 years, right? the way they want to saying, take it over and structure the sport, right? With Dana White and stuff. That's a big move. And for Crawford to come in and just kind of mess up, the beginning of all that, to give them their start, I don't know. Kid, might have to snatch a little of them little nigglets in Omaha. Might, hey, my nephew gone. You remember how Canelo had to negotiate, during one of his fights? Remember that shit? Yep. It don't look so far-fetched now, huh? He had to go out there and win. I forgot what fight it was, but they had kidnapped, one of his family members, and he had to go out there, win, and go negotiate, the return of a family member. You don't think the Turk is that's beyond the Turk capabilities? You know what I'm saying? You give one of these little gangsters in New York $1,500 and they'll do dirt. You know what I'm saying? So, the Turk got that kind of money. Like, just put a picture up. Hey, what I'm saying? We're gonna need you to take a dive in the rematch. You just gotta do it. And you gotta let Canelo beat your ass. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's something is gonna come up to the point where Crawford is gonna have to get that rematch. I just don't see how they're gonna fix it. Unless how can they make Crawford fight David Benavidez? They can't do it. Crawford is in the driver's seat right now. So the only thing they can do is go outside of, decency. That's the only thing they can do to control him. That's the only way. They have to go outside. They have to go to some mafia shit. If we see Crawford change his tune about the rematch, unless it's just in the contract now. Now, and somebody said it was in the contract that there was, that if Canelo accepts it, what I'm saying, that is on and popping, that is in the contract for a rematch. And I could see that too. I could see that happening too. But I'm like, how could they take that kind of risk, thinking that Canelo, it was just a sure thing that Canelo was going to beat Bud Crawford? I mean, knowing who Bud Crawford is, knowing who Victor Conte is, um, I'm surprised that they, didn't have them watched, like, recorded, like, what I'm saying, like, watch him day to day. Like, what I'm saying? Like, if they really needed Canelo to win that bad, if they really needed him to win that bad, you know, it looked like they would have guaranteed it. And that's just how I'm looking at it, you know, because I just can't see how he could be so how he could be so careless, or all of them. How could they be so careless and give it up the chance? He says, what's going on live quality sports? He says, Canelo has recovered from Floyd and bipolar. Not many fighters in current era can come back from two losses. Maybe he can come back from this L. I'm sure. I mean, especially if they do a little how you say that, coercing. What I'm saying, if they twist his arm, if they twist Bud Crawford arm a little bit and be like, man, we're trying to, you kind of coming in the way of what we're trying to do here, and we need you to cooperate. What I'm saying? It's just the only reason why David went to 175. Yeah, because he couldn't get no fights at 168. He said, but he'll come back down if Bud want to get smoked. And they understand that. They know that David is the Turk's Avenger. That's why I put it on there like that. David. I don't think David really want to fight Crawford. I think he still wants to fight Canelo because it's the principle. It's the principle with Canelo because Canelo made David feel small for so many years, or he put it out there that David was, trash and all this kind of stuff, trying to make him feel like he's not on Canelo's level when we all know that he is, you know. So it's a personal thing with David. He really don't have no beef with Crawford, you know. And Crawford don't have no beef with David. He said it. He said he's a big dude, and I think Crawford understands the situation too. I think he understands that the Turk just want to see him up out of there. I think he understands that the Turk want to see him get his ass beat. A lot of Mexicans want to see Crawford get his ass beat, and I think they think David is the man to do it. You know, it just is what it is. There's a lot of hurt people, and I think Crawford was saying there's a lot of people crying, a lot of people, going to be sad and stuff like that. But you know, the man won. What can you do? The man is an exceptional talent. All they're going to do is give him more opportunities to be greater. You know what I'm saying? I had mixed feelings about the shit, tell you the truth. I mean, I wanted him to win, but I was just like, look at this motherfucker here. He says, what credit does Benavidez get for beating Crawford for undisputed? Absolutely none. Because most times when you're talking about when you come from a higher weight class to a lower weight class, you don't get the credit because you're a bigger man, right? You only get credit when you go from, the lighter weight to the higher weight. That's the daring to be great. What the hell what is David daring? What is he daring? What I'm saying, coming from one side, he's supposed to beat the smaller man. That's the problem. You get more respect the heavier division. Heavyweight is the top division, right? So, that's the ranking. That's the ranking. Yes, we have our glamour divisions because the smaller men can move their hands and feet, what I'm saying, or more. They can throw more punches. They can make it more exciting. But David ain't going to get any credit for beating Crawford because we already know what time it is. I mean, that's the real situation with David. That see, because Canelo is a small 168. So he's a small guy, and he uses his speed. What I'm saying, to get by on the big guys at 168. He's a smaller guy. That's why Crawford knew he could beat him, right? But when you talk about, that's why the other fighters and the other coaches think that it's a dangerous fight for Crawford to fight the other 168 pounders because they actual real heavy 168 pounders, right? Like, what I'm saying? Because people think it's just a given that Crawford can beat all the other the 168 pounders like Jamal, what I'm saying, and some of these other ones. That's that 168, because he didn't fight through the division. He just fought, Canelo Alvarez, right? So, a lot of the the other coaches and stuff like that, they think if Crawford fight any of those guys, he could lose, you know, no matter how dynamic you are. And then you got to find the motivation to beat those guys, right? So you're not going to be, Crawford is not going to be as motivated to fight those guys as he was to fight, what I'm saying, Canelo, because he's a big name, right? He got a lot of recognition, but he's not going to get a lot of recognition, just beating, what's this guy named, Hammerzah, Sierra, that somebody like that. He's not going to get a lot of, you know, recognition for beating that guy. But even though that guy's still dangerous, he said, and he said they wasn't Benavidez to drain to 68 while Crawford is snacked up. Yeah. Well, people don't let Crawford forget. And you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point too. You know, think about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like Crawford, we were worried about Canelo juicing. We got to worry about Crawford juicing too. You know what I'm saying? Because why have a PED scientist behind you in your camp? I would never. I'm gonna put it this way: if I was Bud Crawford, I would never have a PED scientist nowhere near me. Or if I did, he wouldn't be announced. He wouldn't be announced. It'll be, if I was dealing with him, it'll be in secret because people think it's impossible, to think that he would be juicing. You know what I'm saying? If Floyd Mayweather and Victor Conte was together, the whole world would be in an uproar. You know what I mean? Like, if he was a part of Floyd Mayweather camp, they'd be like, Floyd was juicing, bro. It ain't just a Bud Crawford thing. It's who you affiliate yourself with. And if the man blew up baseball, if the man blew up volleyball, if the man blew up, you got people hitting the volleyball, killing people on the other side. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, bro. I mean, come on, man. We got to stop playing this game. You know, saying like it's not obvious. I'm not saying it's obvious that Bud taking steroid, but it's obvious he got a PhD scientist in his camp. It's just like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? It's not that too far fetched. He says, "What do you think about Pitbull and Roach?" I think that's a good fight. I think that's a good fight to keep Roach busy. I think because Pitbull. You saw Ryo. You saw the Ryo fight, and Pitbull could easily be outboxed. Tank easily outboxed him. Once he started boxing, it was just Tank was trying to knock his ass out, and he hurt his hand. Um, but Pitbull, he's pretty much a pressure come forward fighter. Roach is going to destroy him. Roach is going to destroy him because it's already out on how to beat him, right? It's already out on how to beat him. He's going to be throwing those, he's going to be throwing those haymakers all fight. Roach probably would knock. I don't know if he could knock out Pitbull because Pitbull got. When you talk about them ghetto children and them guys that just got nothing, nothing but their careers, it's hard to knock them kind of guys out because they're willpower. But yeah, I think Roach would destroy him. Roach boxing IQ is pretty high. He got decent power, decent speed. As long as he don't hit Pitbull on top of the head, he probably won't break his hands while they fighting. Um, Pitbull got that hard ass head. He's got that low center of gravity. But then again, style make fights. You know, I've seen crazier things. He might go in there and what I'm saying, he just might be the right timing, and he catch Roach. What I'm saying, and shit. But really, Roach should go in there and dust him up pretty good. He might get a TKO on Pitbull because Pitbull done been through some pretty good damage. He done been through some fights. You know what I'm saying? So I think Roach all the way. I think Roach all the way. I mean, especially now. I don't know if it's just a fact that Roach got up for the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like how it depends on who you fight. That these fighters get extra motivation. They do extra run. Run that extra laps and just work extra hard, just a little harder because he's fighting Tank Davis. Now that he's fighting Pitbull, what I'm saying, is he going to work as hard? What I'm saying, in the gym. What I'm saying, we go out there and he's a little bit less than himself. And Pitbull is charged up because he needs to get back. What I'm saying, he needs to make up for all the losses that he's made. That's going to be a damn good fight when you think about it. When you think about it like that, it's going to be a damn good fight. He said David was the boogeyman at 168. He says Canelo ducked him to get the titles. I don't think Crawford would have went up to face a real 168 pounder. Like he said, Canelo is not a big dude. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that, Mike. And then, like I said, Crawford was talking on the interview. I can't remember which one it was, but he was saying David is big. He didn't say too big, but the way he was talking, it's like he was saying David is too big. What I'm saying? He was saying he was like 6'2", or 3. He's just a big guy. He said Canelo isn't a small guy. So he was telling you right there in that interview, he fought Canelo because he thought he could beat him as a fake 168 pounder. Canelo is just wider and thicker, right? And then he got short hands. So he saw the advantages that he could take advantage of when he saw Canelo. David got long ass arms. David could go up to heavyweight. He got the body where he could easily go up to heavyweight and easily, what I'm saying, pack on pounds and probably fight comfortably at heavyweight. So he's a natural 168 pounder, right? So, you know, just like I said, they're both opportunists, not David, but Canelo and Bud. They're opportunists, right? So that you get that's what cherry picking is all about. Now, I'm not saying that Crawford ain't a great fighter. I'm just saying He's cherry picking when it comes to, move when you talk about moving up different weights, you know what I'm saying, and you get to pick the guy that you want to fight. Like Roy Jones Jr. fought John Ruiz, you know what I'm saying? He didn't fight Tyson, you know what I'm saying? He did, even though he was talking about fighting Tyson at the time, he fought John Ruiz, you know what I'm saying? He fought a slower dude, a dude that he could see the shit coming, you know what I'm saying? He didn't fight Lennox Lewis, he didn't fight nobody like that. He didn't fight Klitschko, he fought John Ruiz. He cherry picked the guy at heavyweight that he wanted to fight. He didn't want to fight Tyson. He didn't want to fight Lennox Lewis. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want to fight the other heavyweights that were skilled. Not to say that John Ruiz wasn't skilled. He was just slow as shit. And Roy, if he saw that you were slower than him, he just knew you wasn't gonna be able to, you weren't gonna be able to touch him. So he saw how slow he was. He didn't even try to fight Evander Holyfield. But he just fought the guy that he could pick off. You know, he fought the guy that he could pick off. And that's what Bud Crawford did. He fought the guy he saw. I think Bud would have fought him early. It's just that Canelo, came up through the ranks with him. So he saw his fights. He saw that this man in every big fight that he had, he almost lost it, and only the judges saved him. Only the judges saved Canelo, right? So he knew that he could beat him, right? Even back then, when not, because Crawford is a naturally bigger guy. He, like Bo McIntyre said, he drained him so he could, get the accolades. Really he should have been fighting, at middleweight or a junior middleweight. You know what I'm saying? Just like EJ. EJ should have been fighting at junior middleweight or 160, right? But they chose to boil down to these other weights so they could take advantage. And some people say it's weight bullying, but legally, if you can make the weight, shit, if you can make 122 and knock out all of if you can make 122 and keep your big man strength, what I'm saying, knock out anyway, and you can knock out Bam and become undisputed at each weight class or each division. When you do it, and you know what I'm saying, like, what I mean? It's kind of like having a superpower, like, and you know what I'm saying? They can't hurt you, but you can hurt them. I mean, look at Brandon Figueroa. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even though it didn't work out for him like that, you know, it's just that he's this big fucker. He's this big fucker, man. I mean, it's like, and then he just wrestling motherfuckers like for, just constant movement. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, weight bully. You can make the weight, but then the rehydration. Mm, diabolical. Diabolical. You know. But it is what it is. That's what fighters been doing for years and years, coming in. They said Canelo's gonna come in 200 pounds on Crawford. I don't think the shit would have mattered the way the shit went. When you skilled like that, you got, you just got the glow. And Crawford had the glow that night on Canelo. It was serious. Um, but if Canelo would have went back in time for maybe 8 years ago, and he would have just had that explosiveness, it probably would have been a little closer. Because Crawford had already studied the way he throws his punches, and Canelo don't throw in combinations anymore. So he was kind of working at a deficit. He was working at a deficit, really. You know, if you're gonna have to. I was thinking about that the other day. I said, Spence. I said, how did he not know that Bud Crawford was gonna throw in combination? How did he not know that? It's like, I don't know. It's just like they be unprepared for this stuff. That's why I'm looking at Eddie Reynoso. It's like, don't you see this man is, he's coming from the lighter weights. He's gonna be throwing in combinations. How come Canelo is shocked when this man counters quickly? Why? Why is he shocked? It's like I'm like Captain Kirk. Why is he shocked? Didn't he watch the films? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what's going on, bro? It's like if we could see it from the outside, I just don't understand why they didn't prepare for it. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I know 2 cents. Something was wrong, but that's that behind the scenes. You know how you get the whole world thinking about shit. So you be getting the, you be coming with that logic. It ain't even girl logic. It's just that X file shit. Every time you talk, it's like and you be like, damn, you know what? She got a point. It's like, but everybody could see the glaze in his eye. They talking about he was high. Talking about EJ was high before. Man, that man was not high. I don't know if he was on well pain medicine or whatever. I just think he had some stuff going on. That he didn't want to mess the fight up. I think he had something. The boy had a lot of bad luck. Eye cataracts, surgery, messed up the Manny Pacquiao fight. Um, Spence just was born under a weird banner. It got him fame. It got him 3 belts, but there's a plateau. You know, in boxing, just to be able to fight and have a chin and have the attributes to compete for a long time, you have to give it up to him. You know what I'm saying? He was under a lucky star until, what I'm saying, he wasn't, right? He says that's the he says that's the same mistake that Oscar De La Hoya made against Manny Pacquiao, coming in small to match Manny Pacquiao's speed and got his ass whipped. Should have came in the bully. And but I just don't think I think he was drained to make the weight. He was just too small. Um, Oscar was talking about it. He said he just didn't have the energy, you know. And plus you got to think Oscar did a lot of cocaine. He was doing a lot of partying. He was, he was the golden boy. He was doing too much. That's the same with Roy. A lot of these guys' careers would have went a lot further if they wasn't living the lifestyles that they were living outside the ring. And don't get me wrong, Oscar was a hell of an athlete. You know what I'm saying? He just couldn't keep it disciplined outside the ring. Um, and that's why they didn't go further than they did, right? And you could do it for a little while, but the real champions or the real special ones, they have the discipline to keep going. They had the discipline, and I think Oscar was on that level. He just made some bad choices on the outside. You know, cocaine, women. What I'm saying, whatever else, spoons, spatulas. You know, everything. What I'm saying, was just terrible. What I'm saying. He says they didn't believe in Crawford's power, especially Derrick James. Well, yeah, but I also think Victor Conte had a lot to do with it. I do think even without the Victor Conte, I think Crawford and team is well oiled machine. I don't think they needed Victor Conte, but I think it helped build the confidence so Bud could step in that ring and do what he did. I don't think EJ hubris. It's the hubris, you know. EJ, hubris. Texans, I've been in Texas. I'm a Floridian, but I came to Texas, and one thing about these Texans is their egos is as big as their hats, but their heart is as big as their hats also. These guys, they got pride here, and they walk around like, you know, they walk around like giants. You know what I'm saying? They just and EJ got that shit. Even though he was born in New York, he's definitely got the Texas attitude. Where they think they can walk through steel. They can walk. They can go out and get hit by a truck. And he kind of showed you. He's tough. He got into a car accident, slid on the pavement, bounced back. So if that don't tell you that's Texas tough, but at the same time, you know, you still got to work on your craft. You still got to do your due diligence when it comes to checking out your opponent and nullifying what they bring into the ring. We're missing that part of it. That's a part we're missing. You got to study your opponent. You can't just do the same thing over and over, right? And that's I think they just looked at they underestimated Bud Crawford. I don't know why they did that, but I don't know. Derek James just don't seem to be an intellectual type of coach. I thought I kind of put that on him because they were so successful, but I thought he was a more intellectual coach. If you see what you're looking at in front of you, then you make the preparations. And he just didn't do that. He didn't do that at all. He says most likely Canelo probably had something going on. Also, you know the pattern. I don't know, because Canelo came out there jumping, and like you say, it could be any fighter any given day could have something going on. But I'm looking at his last fight. I'm looking at Bud last fight, and basically it's kind of like the fighter that can like really rev themselves up and prepare, mentally, physically for the fight is the fighter that's going to win. You know, and like you said, it's like it's hard to know that what's going on in the fighter's brain, what their motivation is. When they doing the build up of the fight, um, what's really going on. Like, are you really trying to give it your all? You know, or is your mind somewhere else? Are you tired of the same rigmarole over and over again? What was Canelo motivation for beating Bud Crawford, right? What was Roy Jones Jr. motivation for beating Tarver, Antonio Tarver? What was his motivation? He had to come back down from heavyweight. People don't talk about that. He's had to drop all them pounds to meet this guy who was talking shit at 168. He had to do the same, not the dropping pounds part, but when he lost his belt to Montel Griffin, shit, he had to come back and prove something. And he was able to do it at that time, first round knockout. What I'm saying? Crazy ass hook, right hook, what I'm saying? That's why they called him Captain Hook. But it's a lot of pressure. You got to get up for these fights. It's hard to do that when there's nothing in there for you except for money. What's going to inspire you now? If that was me, if Crawford would told me he was going to stump a mud hole in my ass, that would have been all the motivation I needed. That would have been all the motivation I needed, to get myself prepared for this guy because he sounded a little too confident. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is he this? He said nobody has ever told Canelo that they were going to come and stomp a mud hole in their ass. You know what I'm saying? I was like, wait a minute. This dude sound a little bit too confident. Let me see what's going on. Eddie Reynoso should have been like, wait a minute. Let me see what's going on. But that's what happens when you let somebody train for a year. You let somebody get off on a year to check out all your strengths and weaknesses, that's going to be a hard fight. He says, I believe something was wrong with EJ, but also I don't think nobody in the history of the sport at 47 would have beat Crawford that night. So he had an out of body experience. I know what you're saying. Yeah, he looked like he was in the Matrix and shit. That nigga looked like he was bending backwards and shit. You know what I'm saying? And slipping shots and shit. That nigga looked like he already knew what shot was coming. That nigga was up out of there. You know what I'm saying? And that nigga looking, you know, extraordinary. You know, I don't think I even watched that fight. I think I watched it at once, and I watched pieces and parts. He says, okay, I read that. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. But yeah, man, I do think that I think the Turk is trying to figure out how he's gonna corral Crawford. You know what I'm saying? In the corral, how he's gonna get Crawford to, do his bidding because he needs Crawford. Now, if it's the rematch clause, that's how he's going to control him. You know what I'm saying? We don't even have to entertain. We don't have to entertain what Crawford's going to do next because we already know he's with the rematch, right? But then we know the rematch is coming with all kind of drama. The rematch is going to come with all kind of innuendo. It's going to come with a lot of questions, like Crawford. You know what I'm saying? You already know that's a guaranteed L because they can't afford to have Crawford being the face of boxing. They can't afford it. Not if they're going to make this business move. They can't afford it. And really, I'm interested to see how TKO is going to make that happen. Who's going to join, their business model, right? Especially if they ain't paying the fighters what they're supposed to be paid. It's going to be interesting to see. But pretty much, y'all, that's all I got. You know what I'm saying? I just want to come on and talk about that. You know what I'm saying? I'll probably come on a little bit later. Um, and I want to talk about the women's boxing. I'll probably come on later and talk about, what I'm saying, Tierra Brown, and talk about, what's the other chick name? Oh, yeah, Gabriella. I wanted to talk about those ladies. So, pretty much, you know what I'm saying? I see you guys a little bit later. Right now, gotta go. I see you guys in there. I'm trying to cut down on live streams a little bit too. You know what I'm saying? Because, I'll be going for hours and hours. And, you know what I'm saying? I can't get shit done that I need to get done because I'm going to be back rolling tomorrow. So I'll be back on the road and stuff like that. So, we'll have to kick these live streams, somewhere, and I get some place where there's some Wi-Fi and stuff like that. But until next time, y'all, you know, like and share. You know what I'm saying? It's been Pull Kind of Boxing. See you guys in the next live stream. Peace out, y'all.